Welcome back to Investing in Trading Live. As always, my name is Josh Lillquist. On the last segment, we were talking about those different retirement strategies that people are living longer and things that they want to be able to do and leave some for the family. Because what happens is when you have a retirement account, if you just draw it down, most people are using everything that they have and they're not able to leave anything to their family. So we're seeing more and more people come to the Academy that want to have different techniques, different strategies to preserve those retirement accounts, to have them last longer. That way they can do those fun things, but also have an opportunity to help the family out. If you miss seats to one of these investing classes that we do locally right here at the Academy or a neighborhood near you, simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210, and that's for 2 seats, one for you and one for a friend. Text investing to the number 210-210 for an investing class. All across the metro. We cover different techniques like the stock market, obviously. Everybody knows that. We talk about the futures market, the options, Forex, different income strategies, but also those retirement, 401k, and IRA strategies for you and your family. Text investing to the number 210-210. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. By the way, it is free on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Just type in Investing and Trading Live. We do almost daily segments on the show, insights on the markets, tips and tricks to see what's going on in the market, but different opportunities that you may have that you just aren't sure about. So, Al, in this final segment here, let's continue this discussion about wealth creation, because that's an opportunity that I think all of our listeners have right now, is the opportunity to create wealth for them and their families. And it takes different techniques and different strategies to be able to do that. We talked about in the last segment, just putting money in the market and hoping it works out, say with a 401k, it's just not getting people to the goals financially that they have. So there are opportunities with those 401ks, if they have an old one, to roll it into an IRA. We ended the segment on the last segment with that. But I want to discuss those strategies. So let's just say somebody has an IRA. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it's a Roth or traditional, it doesn't matter. What are some of the things that they can do with those? They're not required, obviously, to have somebody else manage it and basically hold it for them and charge them fees. Mm-hmm. What are some of the opportunities they have? Can they invest in any assets? Can they invest short-term, long-term? What can they do?
Yeah, well, first of all, one of the reasons people come into our workshops and become students here is because they feel that they need to take control over at least a part of their money. They've been using somebody in many cases for years. They're disappointed with the returns, and they're upset because they're paying fees. And we have people that come in here that are paying, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more annually in fees for somebody to basically hold their money for them.
Well, think about it. If somebody has, let's just say, what's the easy number? Say $1 million. Mm-hmm. What's an average fee that you see out there?
Well, a lot of people say I'm paying maybe a 1.5% or 2%. They may be actually paying more than that, depending on what the assets are that they're invested in, especially if it's mutual funds. Mm-hmm. So that those numbers add up really quickly.
That's a lot of money that's just being taken away for quite frankly, no reason, in my opinion.
Correct. For somebody doing something that you can do on your own, and in many cases, and we feel that if you have the right education, most cases you can do better and certainly as well as somebody who maybe has 300 or 400 or 500 clients that they're dealing with.
Because how much time are they actually spending on your account?
Well, they can't. I mean, when you've got, I did this for a living. I was a financial advisor. I had over 300 clients. It's impossible to have 300 individual portfolios. What's the right way to deal with each person? Is to have a portfolio that's specific to them, that meets their goals and their objectives.
So here's a test. You had about 300 clients, and this is just the industry in general, not just you, right? Mm-hmm. So you had about 300 clients. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. Name every client. You can't do it, can you?
You know what? It's a great question. And what I could do, I could name 3 or 4, and because I retired from this a long time ago. But why could I name 3 or 4?
Probably had the most money.
Because one of them had over $20 million with me. Do you think that I didn't wake up every morning and think about that person?
There you go.
Unfortunately, there were a lot of people who maybe only had a few $1,000s or maybe $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. It's the reality of the industry. There is a priority list, and they're prioritized by the amount of money they have.
It's great having you on the show because you've done that in the past. It's the insight that you bring, because it's something that you know that, but you were in the business. So that's the great thing about having Al on the show, is being able to enlighten everybody on what's actually happening with those accounts and just the different opportunities that you can do differently.
Yeah. And you asked me, what are the opportunities that you have? With 401ks, 403bs, and almost every employer-sponsored plan, there's limitations as to what you can invest in. And it's almost impossible to have any kind of protective measure in place.
Yeah.
Protection, risk management protection is a huge part of what you have to learn if you want to make it through retirement comfortably. And if you put your 401k money when you retire into a self-directed IRA, you can have that protection. There's a number of different ways you can protect your assets. There's a number of different ways you can benefit in not just up markets, but down markets and sideways markets. In that self-directed IRA, you can invest in stock if you want to. You can invest in mutual funds if you want to. You can invest in futures, in Forex, and options. Those are leveraged assets that are great for short-term income. When you retire, remember the income that you were making that paid most of your bills is gone. And what are you going to do? Are you just going to look at a pile of money you have, your retirement money, and then just hope that there's enough there for you to keep taking pieces out of to pay your bills and to have some fun?
So so you're saying that there are strategies to use, say in an IRA, the futures market, almost, right. I mean, just in general, like a job would, paying yourself. There's strategies that are designed for that.
Right.
So that way, it's because when when you quit working, your income stops. Have an opportunity to keep replenishing that will have it last longer too.
Exactly. So there's two things that you mentioned before. So what was the thing I was going to say? You had mentioned people taking money out of their retirement accounts to pay their bills and to live.
Okay.
And when your income is gone, then that's, for a lot of people, the only thing that they have to be able to do. We think that there's three things that are really critical for a retirement plan. One is having an income source. So you generate income off of what you have in retirement instead of pulling money out of it.
Sure.
Number two, this is what I was trying to remember.
We had a stall there. I like that.
Yeah, is
now you forgot again.
See, when I think of something that I forgot, I got to pick it up really quickly. But you mentioned leaving a legacy, having money to leave for your kids or your grandkids. Well, how do you do that if you're just dwindling down the amount of money you have? So growth of that portfolio is important too. So those are two things: generating income off of what you have in retirement, growing the portfolio, which means having some exposure to the equity market or the financial markets, and then the most important of the three that are important is risk management, making sure that what you have worked hard for stays with you. Use that then to grow, keep growing what you have, and then also use the income strategies that we will teach you to generate income while you're in retirement and while you're sleeping.
Sure. And what do you mean by risk management? Because I don't think our listeners actually understand that.
Well, with people are afraid of putting money in the market because they think they could lose it. And that certainly is possible, but there are ways of protecting your assets. There's ways of looking at any investment. Look at what the worst case scenario is. What's the downside to any investment? And then if you can't manage that risk with the strategies that we teach you, go on to something else. But that should be the first thing you learn, by the way, and it's the first thing we teach is how to manage risk.
So it's minimizing is where you're going with that. You have to keep that risk small at all times, because that's how you have longevity, and that's how you keep going in the markets. It's keeping small risk, high reward, and then high probability entry points. That circles back to how the markets work, which we talked about in the first segment, is supply and demand. That's how we make our decisions, is based off of facts with low risk, high reward, high probability entry points. If you want to learn more about those techniques and strategies we've been covering here today, simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210 for 2 seats for a free investing class. Here in Bloomington, we have these in Edina. We have these in Maple Grove, Waconia, Woodbury. We're all across the metro. Shorewood. We're also Rochester. A lot of people come into these classes in Rochester as well, which is great. So simply text investing to the number 210-210 to get started, whether you have 401ks, IRAs, or you're in your income years and you're looking to create something like that, you have the opportunity to create your own IRA, those retirement accounts. And we can guide you through your options, what you can do, what you can't do. You can simply make your own decisions, but we can train you the skills on how to do that confidently. Text investing to the number 210-210. Also, we do like our subscribers on the podcast, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. That's Investing and Trading Live. Al, we've had a good discussion on how the markets work, minimizing risk in the markets, who's coming into these investing classes. A great discussion here today. Let's hear to today's OTA tip of the week.
Well, I would say to everybody, if you're not happy, just remember this. Things will never change themselves. Things pretty much stay the way they are until they're acted on by some outside force, and that's action that you take. If you're not making the money you say you want or you need, you're not going to start unless you change something, unless you take action. The problem isn't that things won't change themselves. It's that things won't change unless we change something, unless we do something, and that something is our actions. The only way anything changes, whether it's good or bad, is when someone takes action. So you have to make sure you take the right action. That's the necessary component. Without action, you're always going to remain where you are.
I like that. You have to take your actions in your own hands and do things yourself sometimes. And one thing my dad always said, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Text investing to the number 210-210 for 2 free investing classes right here at the Academy. You can also go to OTAMIN.com. That's OTAMINN.com. Follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. As always, same time, same place. Next week, until then, retire young, my friends.